and open up our work session for December 5th, 2017 at this time. And I'd like to ask everyone to either please silence or turn off their cell phones and then join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you share with us some changes to the agenda?
We have one deletion for today, the EOC inmate work program agreement.
Okay, and that'll be rescheduled probably for the next
Correct.
meetings later in December. I'd like to welcome everybody here today and really appreciate all of the different agencies coming to give us a fire season update on this past fire season, everything that went on. Really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate all the work that all of you do. So.
Thanks, Commissioner. Well, I just want to start off by saying we can recall back when we met here this spring. You know, last winter we had a very good snowpack and we had a good rain, and we think back to the 2016 fire season, we hardly had any lightning. So we really didn't know what to expect in 2017. And by the time we could get out of guard school, we were going strong at the end of June. And it seemed like it never quit after that. So it was a very busy fire season. We had a lot of lightning here in South Central Oregon. And I just think you'll find through the report though, and you know, the main emphasis is the pump is doing very well. Our partnerships with everybody is working great. Our dispatch center had a great season, and working with the RFPA units here, you know, with Warner Valley and some of the ones in North Lake County. Those folks are just keep getting better and better all the time, and they appreciate the help as well. And we heard them on the radios and whatnot, and they're really improving, and it just makes all of us better. So we'll start off with the handout that I gave you here. Just some statistics here on the first page from the Northwest that comes out of Northwest Coordination Center. In the region, there was 40 days at PL 5. PL is the preparedness level. 1.12 million acres affected by wildfire this year. 710,000 in Oregon, 409, almost 410 in Washington. 41 incident management teams mobilized in the region. That's a very busy season, and kept a lot of forests and different agencies extremely busy with multiple teams on their units. We had 123 fires meeting large fire criteria, as you can see there. At peak season there, we almost had 10,500 firefighters in the Northwest, and that's a very, very busy, heavy load there. And that's about as good as you can get with other regions busy as well. California was busy, and Region 1 was busy with Montana, Wyoming. So, Checo Bar, largest fire, 191,000 acres. You can see the costs there, they're gargantuous. And 98,000 acres of safe grass habitat affected by fire in Oregon. Various degrees. Next page here, if you look, just kind of breaks it out into some of the statistics by agency and by ranger district, where the lightning fires were.
Barry, before you go on, I hate to interrupt you, but this is really helpful information, I think, for not just us, but for a lot of people, the Pacific Northwest fire stats.
Yeah.
Is there any way, you know, not maybe listing all the fires and everything else, but in the future, we might be able to get the same update and have the national statistics?
National.
All, you know, in certain areas, like acres burned, the 9 million some acres, and then the $3+ billion in expense. That's what really jumps out at you.
Okay.
Or, you know, just the comparison of once upon a time, not that long ago, the 438 million in Oregon was what it was nationally. You know, I just want people that watch the video, read the paper, because we have a lot of congressional folks that we read our weekly paper. And just to share that with them, this is a great forum to do that in.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
We'll try to gather that for the future, you bet.
Okay.
If you go to the next page there, again, just kind of breaks out some of the statistics. One thing I'd like to bring to attention is we still have a fair amount of human caused fires. You see we had a total of 32,557 acres affected on Skunk this year. And of that, almost a quarter of it was human caused. One of the big ones was the Anna fire, obviously in Summer Lake, was the big statistics there for 7,144 acres. So, but we were still getting a fair amount of lightning, or a fair amount of human caused fires. A third of our responses were human caused.
So the Anna fire doesn't count that they were drinking white lightning and the fire started, no correlation.
I haven't heard the final one.
I haven't, no, I shouldn't make light of it.
As you can just kind of look around, again, Blythe was one of our busier units. And Chiloquin was kind of quiet compared to usual. But Winter Wren and Klamath Ranger districts both were busy as well. Klamath had one of their busiest years ever. The largest fire on the Klamath Ranger district was at 300 and some acres. And this year the North Pelican fire went for over 3,000. So that record finally crumbled after many, many years. So, the next page just shows the Klamath Falls Air Tanker Base use this year. They had a very busy season. Did over 600,000 gallons worth of retardant. And you can kind of see the past 10 years of use there. As you well know, also we have the seat base here in Lakeview at the airport. We did over 400 seat base loads this year for over 300,000 gallons. And that isn't just for Skunk, that's also for Northern California. We helped out the Modoc a lot.
Very good about from 36 and on the heavy.
Yeah,
That's a lot of trips.
we were constantly ordering more retardant. So the truck knew the way after a while, so pretty well. So anyway, very busy season on the aircraft side. Next one is just a map of the Type 2 and Type 1 fires we had. We had Anna up there at Summer Lake. We had Jade Creek on the Blythe Ranger District, as well as Devil's Lake fire, and then the 3 fires over on the west side with Blanket, North Pelican, and Spruce Lake at the park. So, as you know, these eventually went into, the 3 on the west side went into area command, and for a long time we were managing the North Pelican fire with our Type 3 team. Went pretty well, but there was a point there where we needed additional support. And if we didn't join area command with North Pelican, it would have been difficult to support those folks. Next page is just some statistics of acres of those fires. You can take a look there. Again, all but Anna were lightning. And then this last page here shows, I wanted to just talk a little bit about on the integrated fuels target and the treatment side. As you can see, this just shows all the forests in Region 6. And Fremont-Mahima, we had an integrated target of 60,000 acres, and we treated 71,303 acres. So it's a little bit confusing. You can't always, some of these targets get counted a couple times, but they're going to change that here in 2018. We're actually going to lower our target, and you still see quite a bit of acres treated. We've got a lot planned here for 2018. So anyway, we're leading the charge again in the region as far as making a difference out on the landscape. We've still got a long way to go, but we're very proud of the work we're doing, and hopefully we continue to do that in the future. So Some of that has to do with Good Neighbor Authority, that we're working with Oregon Department of Forestry with. Very proud of that project, and just a lot of good partnerships out there going on across agencies, the North Warner project, things like that. So, we'll continue to hopefully get some funding and be able to do that. Got just a few fun statistics that are a little bit different than normal. Our dispatch center had 86 days this year where they were open 24 hours a day. And that's not normal. That's a heavy load. So that's over 2.5 months of being open 24 hours a day. And we were just really busy. We brought in 28 people from outside of our area to help dispatch, help work in that center. And there was a lot of work going on in there. We were in multiple fire plan, 32 days. We had one stretch of a 72-hour period where we had 141 fires, and we staffed them all. So we have a lot of capacity here in Skafunk with all of our partnership, and it showed this season. And just very proud of the work that we did interagency-wise. We would never be able to do that if we were just one single agency working separately. So very, very happy to see that happen and see that capacity. We created 9,025 resource orders out of the dispatch center. Wow. And I don't know, I know, Dan, you know what that means as far as creating a resource order, but that's a lot of work for those dispatch folks as far as bringing equipment, firefighters, various people that help firefighting in and out of our area to go and respond to fire.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. So with that, unless you have any questions, I will give it over to Dustin or anybody else that'd like to talk.
Hey, Dustin.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Very good.
So I don't know that I have a lot left to add. Dennis Lee didn't want me to apologize for him not making it today. He had a family emergency to deal with.
Okay.
As Barry said, it was a really busy summer for the Department of Forestry. They had just touch on here in Lakeview, the lake unit. A couple of things that stand out to me is we're over double our 10-year average for a number of fires this year. And we're right at our 10-year average for acres burned. But that's a little misleading in that 10-year average does include the Ferry Point fire. So if you take that out, it's probably considerably over what our normal average is for this area. Most of the fires that Barry listed, Devil's Lake and Jade Creek, we're involved in a mixed ownership, and it was a joint effort. One that wasn't on that list was the Crane Creek fire. It was just south of town. I think you guys remember that probably.
Yeah.
That was 603 acres. Pretty successful fire, and we were also busy for several days down in the Yoakum Valley country, putting in some, I think we ended up with the Forest Service, putting in something like 17 miles of contingency lines for, the steel fire that was down on the MoDOC.
Yeah.
Potential to come up north towards us.
Yeah.
Other than that, I guess I just want to say thank you for your guys' support through this busy summer, and saw you at many different meetings and places, and the support of their other agencies, like the Sheriff's Office, provided a lot of support to us too. We really appreciated all that. You guys are probably aware that the last main area of unprotected private lands in eastern Oregon is in the process of forming a rangeland protection association. It's going to be a pretty large area, going from essentially the Highway 31 up in 395 up to almost Wagon Tire and
and to the west. I think that process for forming that is, I want to say either this month or next month, the Board of Forestry will make a decision on allowing that to go, have a public hearing, and then once there's a hearing, we'll go back to the board for final approval.
Great.
So probably by this coming fire season, that will be operational, one would expect, and I know there's a handful of folks that are eager to participate, and landowners up there, and Marvin Better with our agencies will be getting equipment.
That's great.
For this folks.
Well, you know, on the equipment side, just really quickly, our WIFLIT committee is working nationally. There was some real pullback on federal access property and equipment, you know, specifically firefighting. And we were working our way through those groups with the folks back there in DC. So hopefully, not only will the program continue, but it will actually increase in available equipment for entities.
That would be excellent.
Yeah.
I know those rangeland associations with Marvin assisting there, it's had a lot of success in the last couple of years in Eastern Oregon. You know, there's been a lot of fires this summer out in the desert that the BLM and the rangeland associations work hand in hand on. That partnership has made great strides, so I would anticipate that continuing to benefit our county as well.
Yes, yes. Very good.
Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Well, I got a comment or a statement trying to, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the lightning caused fires compared to the human caused fires on those EF. 30 lightning, 13 human. Get over the acres burned, you only have 49 on the human. That sort of puts the argument out there when people come in and say, well, why am I paying for Oregon Department of Forestry protection? It sort of shows there that the human caused fires, which I would think most of the time would happen around a residence or something, the number's way down compared to lightning. I'm basically saying, right there, the argument saying we do a pretty darn good job.
Yep. And I think if you look at that, those statistics, you look at the Klamath versus Lake units, you know, it's almost reversed. And I think that's just a function of...
Extremely reversed.
I think it's a function of population differences between Lake and Klamath County, a lot of it. But yes, lightning is our main, for the Lake unit, our main causal factor here.
But as we get hit, because the funds coming through, it's not taxes, but coming through our taxation, and that's a pretty good argument for us to say they will have to show them pretty good coverage out there.
Yep.
So, you know, just a statement, I guess, unless I was wrong on it, I think I did.
No, you got it right.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
That's it, gentlemen.
Commissioners, I do have one more thing I forgot to mention.
Oh, boy.
There's gonna be a tanker base review that's gonna happen in 2018. It's gonna be, probably start in February. And nationally, they're looking at all the tanker bases around the United States. But specifically in the Northwest, they're gonna take another look at Medford and Klamath Falls. And because they're close proximity to each other, also with the phasing out of the old air tankers and the new jet engine air tankers, it is now 15 minutes one way from Klamath Falls to Medford with an air tanker. So they want to take a look at it, see if they still need two air bases here in the south central corner of the state. As you know, Medford does have the very large air tanker capability with the 747s. Klamath Falls, you can land them there, but the taxiway has been an issue as far as weight and whatnot. With the new taxiway B going in Klamath Falls, I'm not sure if that one now will allow that to be good. We'll figure that out here shortly, talking to the Klamath Falls folks. But it is a bit of a concern, just trying to figure out, you know, what is which tanker base. You know, I don't know if they're going to come down to one or they're going to decide to keep two. But the further east you go away from Klamath Falls or Medford, you know, the further time you get, and then you have to decide: are you going to use Redmond or are you going to use Boise? Mm-hmm. You know, as you get further east. So it's something that we'll keep you appraised on and keep you up to date on. And anyway, want you to be aware of it.
Yeah.
Have you been working with, on the county side, on Commissioner Donnie Boyd, any at all?
We meet with those folks next week. As you also know, the Klamath Falls Airport is under the Klamath City.
Yeah.
And so I need to meet with those folks, which I have not done before, and the airport manager there, Mr. Andre. So anyway, it'll be ongoing. We know that there was a tanker-based review several years ago, and it was determined Klamath Falls. We will certainly share that review and just see if, what comes of it. But as you see in the statistics there, Klamath has up and down years, and but when we do need it, it's right there and available. And I think it's valuable to South Central Oregon. We certainly need it.
Well, I can't really speak to it, but I know Commissioner Boyd and I did have some conversation at the AOC conference, and he went home for a day to try to make sure the city of Klamath Falls had every avenue to be attractive they could. So, and that's pretty much a political statement there, I guess, sort of on the fence. But spend some time with Commissioner Boyd. He's working outside the box to try to make sure that that airport is the most desirable it can. Working with the city of Klamath Falls.
How soon will we know about this other taxiway?
I think it's getting close to completion. I don't know if anybody knows any different, but I know that it's taxiway B and it's on the Tanker Bay side over there in Klamath Falls, on that east side of the runway. And I think it's supposed to have the capability to take a heavier load. But I need to get those things confirmed.
Yeah.
So,
We think that 15 minutes is extremely important over here.
so it turns into a half an hour round trip, so.
Yeah, so,
Extra.
Well, on a lot of these desert fires, that'll make or break, those fast moving fires, and that's just that much further away. Besides, we have sea capability, but air tankers are kind of important.
So, anyway, we'll keep you appraised on how that study goes,
and we'll do all we can.
okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't have a lot to add either. Barry gave you all the statistics. Just a couple of items. So out of the fires that occurred on the Lakeview resource area, the six largest fires we have active rehabilitation plans for. All of those rehabilitation plans have been approved. We let a contract that actually starts today, built a couple of fences to isolate some of those fires from grazing, temporary fences. We've already applied herbicide to keep cheatgrass out of some of those, and I think our seeding contract starts next week. So we're actively rehabilitating those. Just another portion of note, there were several fires in mid-July that started in Lake and Klamath counties. Those were suspected military flare fires. Just kind of want to give you an update on that. It is still a little bit of an ongoing investigation. The initial fire investigators for those 6 fires were all different individuals for the most part. And so what we asked as a group, we asked for a special investigator. It ended up being a BLM special investigator out of Salem to come down and take a look at all of those fires together. And so there were 3 fires in Klamath County, I think 1 or 2 in Harney County and 1 in Lake County. Those involved multiple agencies. There were 2 on the BLM, 1 on Heart Mountain Refuge, and then actually there were 2 on BLM on the Lakeview side, I believe 1 in Klamath Falls, and then 2 on the VF Plains in Klamath. So the results of that investigation are not completed yet, but it is apparent that at the majority of those fires there was unburned military flare material from training rounds. The military was engaged on that investigation out of Kingsley Field. They are doing a lot of internal testing to see kind of what was going on their end, but it is relatively apparent that there was some that flares played an active role in some of those fires. So anyway, that's still ongoing. We think we've made some pretty good headway with the military. We've yet to see what kind of recommendations will come from their end as far as changing activities. So, okay, any questions?
No, that's just, I appreciate that update. That's interesting. You know, and I know it's, when we're talking about multiple government agencies, we're real cautious in how we talk about these things. But when you have flares that are present at the point of origin, it's kind of a no-brainer, you know, in the general world. And their operation just needs to, you know, it'd be great for them to test the flares and see how they can do something different, but those obviously malfunction from what they intended, and they caused what they caused.
We've seen more cooperation this year than we ever have before from Kingsley Field especially.
That's great.
So, and I don't, I guess, want to try to implicate Kingsley Field in all of these either, because there are aircraft that come out of other bases as well.
Sure.
And it's apparent from the times that the fire started that Kingsley didn't have aircraft in the air in that vicinity at some of those times. So it's a lot bigger of an issue, but it is something we're working on, and we're working hand in hand with the military to try to figure out what the solution is. So.
Yeah. Good.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I don't really have anything to add. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to address them. Barry covered it pretty well.
Yeah. Honestly, you know, the beauty, not just from all of your standpoint and your cooperation and working together, but what you do with us. And, you know, we've stepped it up another level as far as fire information sharing. I think anybody that's not in the know is kind of, they choose to be not in the know. I talk to a lot of counties around the state and their different agencies and working relationships and find that we're, as I thought, very fortunate here. So if at this point in time I have questions, it's just simply because I've had my head in the sand. You've all been very open and very information sharing throughout the whole process, and we know we're always invited when we do have a large fire event to participate in any manner we think is appropriate. I continue to be impressed with the efforts that not only you as the overhead to these agencies do, but all the people on the ground and the firefighting, and that includes our contractors, all of our other support. We're very, very, very fortunate in this area to have the folks that we have and the operations that we have, and we know you're continuing to strive to make them even better. But I have no qualms when I go out and talk about our local agencies and what we do in the fields arena and what we do in the fire arena. And it's always a pleasure to be able to share that with folks throughout the state and actually throughout the nation when those opportunities are there. So I just thank you once again for everybody's efforts and all the work that you do. We're very happy.
Yeah, Dan says it very well. It's always a surprise to me when I go to a conference and meet with other commissioners, and the old saying is, you've been one county, you've been one county. But they just don't have no concept of what it really takes compared to what we have. I mean, they don't have the interaction, they don't have the professionalism that we have here in Lake County. And I myself can't thank all of you enough myself. You know, every year I tell you on the initial attack, we didn't talk much about that. Nobody even talks about that. We go to conference, they don't even talk about all the fires that are stopped. And we thank you so much for that. And I try to make sure every year I tell you thank you for that, because that's huge. You know, we got all these public lands that are protected by the men and women that go out there and do that. But we're really unique, I believe. You know, Dan, he's been our best voice out there. I have to give a lot of credit to him. He speaks well, he lets people know, and he doesn't put up with it all being blamed on the Forest Service or the personnel and everything. Says, no, you need to interact with your people, you need to be upfront, get with them, make the meetings and all that stuff. So I believe Dan's our best advocate for the way the Lake County and the agencies interact, and I'll put us above any other county, and thank all of you guys, all the men and women that work out. Appreciate it, thank you.
Well, thanks, Commissioner. I do want to mention to you, because you guys all get around in all the agencies, Forest Service, BLM, Fish and Wildlife, State. We have been working, and I use that pretty liberally, kind of like some other things that I'm quoted on. It's not me, but we as a collective group within the WIFLIT committee on, and with our western region, and Katie Lighthall for the western region, she's kind of the administrative person for that, and Katie gets a lot of the credit. But where I'm going with this, just to share with you, as you talk to different, your different agency folks, there's a county playbook is what it's being called, being developed. NACO, the National Association of Counties, is about ready to sign off on it. They're sponsoring it. It's going to be internet-based and interactive, and you can pick, as anybody can, but it's designed for county commissioners throughout, specifically the western United States, but for any of them, because the southeast has fires and so on and so forth. But they will be able to go in there and see what level they're at of understanding about wildfire and the agencies, and click on that, and it'll send them to a different link than some if you click over here. And what it ends up doing is it kind of tells you how to engage with your local agencies and get informed, where you fit in. Because a lot of commissioners don't know. They think they fit in by standing on the street corner, quite frankly, and bashing the agencies, whether it's state or federal or whoever. They have a really important role if they drive in the right lane, the correct lane on it, to interact and actually help the agencies and the mission that you all have and the work that you're trying to do. So try and promote that when you start to see it, because I think I was kind of one of the guinea pigs for running through it, and I think it's going to be a real useful tool for those that actually want to be part of the solution and not continue to be part of the problem.
What's it called again?
County Playbook. Yeah. And Katie handed it off. I missed the last WIFLIT meeting in early November back there in DC, but she handed it off to the NACO staff, and they were going to do one final review and see if they couldn't get it live right after the first of the year. So it'll be something everybody can log on to, not just counties, but everyone will be able to log on to it.
I'll just say too, we just came back from Portland, our end of the season regional meeting, of all the Northwest and Alaska. They're starting a pilot project at the state office, regional office. The Forest Service Fire Director will be overseeing all of fire, and the state FMO is going to work right under the regional fire director. We're going to try it as a pilot. Instead of being co-located, they're going to try to do more service first. So I also know that the regional forester and the state director are working hard to see where more service first things can happen between the two agencies, and so they can blend more often. Right down the middle of the two, Oregon and Washington, we've got a lot of intermix of BLM and Forest Service lands, and there's got to be some efficiencies that they're looking to have.
Yes. Well, it's interesting. I'll just really quickly say I was on a panel with both Jim and Jamie at the AOC conference, and it was we didn't get to everything we needed to, but the long and the short of my discussions with the two of them is that this part of the world is a great investment for those two, and to invest in
Yeah,
this.
it's no accident that in some ways, the efforts that have been going on here in South Central Oregon for years are being seen in some of their models they want to test within our region are going to be very reflective of how we organize and try to do things across agencies and with partners. They'd like to realize the same benefits that perhaps we're getting here in Klamath Lake.
Yep, I agree, Bob. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Sure appreciate y'all coming in and all the work you do. Travel safe.
All right.
Okay. See you, Lisa.
Hey, guys.
See you, Dave. Okay. Beth?
Over next.
Yep. Well,
All right.
I'm gonna ask you if you could come up. Yep.
Yeah, all of us, one of us.
However you want to do it, Beth.
What other chair?
Yeah. You're all in tune. Hi, Judy. How you
Hey,
doing?
good to see you.
How are you two?
We're well, thank you.
Good.
All right, so we're just here to ask you to consider, or I don't know what the right phrasing is, but my last day will be on Friday, and Judy and Jill have agreed to split my position as interim. Judy will be designated as interim director of Lake County Public Health, and then Jill will be assuming duties of emergency preparedness, environmental health, and lead in communicable disease. So that's the proposal.
Well, first, I think, and I might be jumping out in front of the chair, but we got to acknowledge the number of years and the dedication that Beth has given my county. 21, almost 22 years.
21.
21 years.
Actually, it'll be 21 years on December 11th, my last day of December 8th.
Well,
So, just fell short, yeah.
but that's incredible, Beth, the number of years, number of years that you've given us, given Lake County and the citizens. We appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
Definitely wish you luck in the direction you're going. That comes with sort of a saddened heart. I'd love for you to stay here, but never look down on somebody who wants to change and move and go on to a different way of life. But thank you so much for all your years. I mean, there's been ups and downs. You've seen from the dollars here to the dollars where they're here, and at the end of the day, the clients and the people that you've been able to help in our community. Thank you.
Thanks. That's important to me, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve people like I was able to do that. It was a great career for me, so I appreciate it.
Well, you know how I feel. It's a dinner.
Thank you. Yeah, and these ladies are gonna do a great job. Very dedicated, very, very good. So I have no qualms about leaving them as interim, and then when you decide what direction public health is going, then I'm sure they'll be available to help with that process.
So Commissioner, why don't we do this today?
Yeah, it's on tomorrow, but I agree with you. I think we should take care of it today, make it official.
So and our HR is here, Jay is here, and he's talked and let everybody know the difference in the salary and everything, where that will come out. Judy and Jill are both comfortable with the discussion you've had with Jay. And so at this time, I will make a motion to appoint Judy as the interim director and Jill as, can't remember which
Program lead.
program and assistant director, I guess is sort of how it would be called. And then I don't know what else you're going to be in charge of, but I'd like to make the motion to appoint the both of them reflective of what Jay has talked to him on the salary change.
And I will second that.
Effective date?
Well, hang on. I will second that, gladly second that. And the motion's been made and seconded to appoint Judy Clark as the interim director and Jill Harlan as the program lead in our public health department, as was presented by our director at that discussion. Jay's got a
We
question.
need, I thought of that earlier, Jay, I just left it out. It needs to be effective of I guess the 12th, and you're down on the 11th.
Monday the 11th.
Monday,
And
Monday
the
the
last day
11th.
of work will be the 8th.
Yeah,
okay.
and Monday is the 11th. So
Monday the 11th.
effective, is that?
I'd like to amend my motion to make it effective Monday the 11th.
I second that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. It's done.
All right, well,
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
You got a deep breath there when you said thank you.
Yeah.
I was hoping she'd say, well, you know.
We're looking very forward to you two ladies stepping up.
Thank you, thank you. Have a good day.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Pat.
I'll take care of the personnel action.
Okay, we still have a little bit of time, Commissioner, before.
Yep. And we need to probably, is Jennifer gonna have something for us today?
I think she's here for our 10 o'clock.
The 10 o'clock.
Gotcha. Very good. And Denise, we don't know anything more about the OHA, no
I-
help from other than it's here.
I don't, other than it's here.
Okay. I think it's a pretty standard amendment, but it's on for tomorrow as far as action goes.
I can do some follow-up with the state, see if I can get some additional information, if you would like.
You know, if you don't mind, we'll see
Okay.
if we can take the appropriate action. It looks like it's just, in the money part, it's the same amounts. One's a minus, one's a plus, it's a wash. But yes, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Okay. And the National Hazard Mitigation Plan update, IGA number PS 17015, the Sheriff's Department. I know Daniel, Commissioner, visited me. I only had one real question.
Daniel, the sheriff, and Paul are all at trainings this week. So the request from myself and Paul was to get it before legal counsel be reviewed and get it back to us. So if there's some specific questions, you could email Daniel.
No, I visited with him. I've already talked to him.
So,
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
okay, yeah, so.
It was on the, specifically, it was on the auto insurance, and he's gonna be working with Jay, because it really called out. I said, how much automobile use in developing this plan are we gonna have to worry ourselves with? It's just part of the procedural process. We're self-insured, and there's a clause in there that allows us to have that qualified, so,
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
So that's on for improvement for tomorrow.
And the BOPTA, the Board of Property Tax Appeals member recommendation, is also on for tomorrow, but it's by our Lake County Clerk, Stacy Gainey. It's being recommended the appointment of Ken Kessner and Deanna Walls to the BOPTA board. And I don't see any reason not to do that. Ann's here on our East Cascades Workforce Investment Board lease agreement. Some discussion today.
Yeah. So after our walkthrough meeting with them last week, and looking at the space downstairs in the basement, you have before you a draft agreement with some very simple terms to lease the old treasurer's office downstairs. That has been sent to Jim Bailey for his review. He did have a couple of questions that were answered. Right now it's sitting with Workforce Investment Board. Their CFO hasn't had time to review it and to make any comment, but we wanted to start showing you the draft to see where it's at. Right now it's sitting with a 5-year term with, I believe it's $4,500, which includes telephone and internet services. It also makes the statement that a commensurate amount of, rent income would be reinvested back in the WorkSource program. And that was at the discussion with Heather with the workforce group. Again, it can change depending on what you guys are comfortable with and what their CFO is comfortable with, but this is just a start.
Thank you for the work on that.
Yes, and
It actually, it was a lease agreement that the county had in place with some community corrections at the Mary's building, so we just kind of modified that for our
So,
use.
so really no action for tomorrow, this is just the first draft, waiting for it.
Waiting for more discussion from, yeah, and again, they're looking, I think, at trying to occupy sometime at the start of January, so we'll have time to get this really finalized and approved before they takes.
Okay, so we can take that off for tomorrow's meeting. Well, we could have a discussion with Mr. Bailey, I guess.
yeah, well, yeah. See if-
And we may get comments today or before the meeting. The other thing I wanted to ask, because I wasn't sure of yet, this makes the discussion of reinvesting the rent income. I do not know if you want to really formalize any kind of funding commitment other than that. You can if you want, you don't have to. So if there is some kind of formal commitment that we want to,
Above and beyond the rent that we're gonna get.
yeah.
I, honestly, I don't, as much as I definitely support the program, I don't wanna tie our hands in an agreement that we're gonna do it. We'll make just what the budget process dictates.
Sounds good. I just wanted to get clarification of
Yeah.
how that,
And I'll take your lead on that, because I was one that's sort of asking that question, you know.
okay.
So, through the budgeting process, you're good.
Yeah, we'll make it as simple as possible.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
Travel safe.
I will.
Okay. Thank you, Ann.
Mhm.
Denise, KCC out of district contract.
So this is actually our out-of-district contract for our current year. It starts as of July 1. We're a little bit late in getting this handled, I apologize. There are no changes from our previous contract.
So we'll just take that up tomorrow, formalize it, sign it,
Pretty much.
send it out. Okay, the Oregon Smoke Management Review Support Request. I received this from Craig Denz. Craig works for the Nature Conservancy, and he's been very actively involved over the years in the Oregon Smoke Management Committee. He no longer, I chatted with him last night, no longer sits on that committee. We actually, I believe, have a commissioner that does, and he might actually be at the meeting. I think he's going to a smoke management meeting tomorrow in Roseburg. So I'm not quite sure why he didn't bring it before us, but with that said, Craig had reached out to me and asked if I would present this. And I told him last night that as a minimum, without Commissioner Winters having weighed in yet, because we haven't brought it before the board, but as a minimum, we would have a couple of recommended changes from myself. And I'll start with the second one, Commissioner.
I got to get my head on.
I don't know. I'll start with the second one in the second paragraph, where it says unnatural force conditions coupled with climate change. And I would recommend, if we do consider signing this, that we cross out change and move between with and climate changing. Unnatural force conditions coupled with changing climate, because that is what happens. And that doesn't tie us to a political statement about climate change, but we're really identifying or suggesting that it does happen. But then in the paragraph prior to that, in the middle, it says, this experience has not only taught us that prescribed fire, and I crossed it out enough, treatments are essential to our ability to protect, restore, and enhance. I put in there, this experience has not only taught us that prescribed fire coupled with needed mechanical pre-treatments are essential to our ability to protect, restore. So that we clearly, on the one hand, support some recognition that prescribed fire is a beneficial tool, and between DEQ and EPA, we need to perhaps lighten up some of the standards that these activities can happen under. We're also saying up front that we believe that mechanical treatments out there are equally as important, and in a lot of cases more important. So that's what I had on it for discussion today.
I appreciate what you say there. I haven't been able to put the time in. I think this justifies, I guess, just ask you a question on it.
Mhm.
On the bullet points down here, it says align Oregon smoke policy with EPA's.
Empirical based 24 hour.
Anytime you start throwing EPA out there, a lot of times their standards are so strict that you're not able to do hardly anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that statement means, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I wouldn't want to suggest that I know it 100%, but that's one of the things the committee I spoke about earlier, our Wildland Fire Leadership Council group, is working with nationally with the EPA, a recognition that it's a matter of when and how do you want the smoke delivered. It's not a matter of if, but when and how.
Okay.
And so EPA is actually starting to recognize that there are good opportunities to do treatments that will lessen the risk and the severity of large-scale wildfire and the smoke that it produces. So that's kind of what it's getting at.
So that's getting EPA to where they're more readily involved.
Yep.
Okay, just a comment on climate changing, whatever. I haven't looked this up, secondhand information. I believe it's out of the state back east or something, is 21 years the climate hasn't changed. So I guess that would be a pretty good statement. We're doing a good job in changing climate change. It hasn't changed. I don't know if that's true, if that study was out there or not. People will take it whatever way they want.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious if that's really true, or if that secondhand information is just a comment.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, I will review it some more, but I do know that you put a lot of time into it, so we should be able to, I would like to wait until tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We're good there. So we've got a few minutes before our next timed item, and I would like to, with your will and permission, to take a short 5-minute break. We're going to reconvene at 10 o'clock here on at 10, and I know we've got a few folks that are here for that, so, okay. We're right back.